Being a college student means that you do a lot of studying. Studying itself is not hard, but what can be challenging is finding a study technique that works for you. For this video, I've decided to team up with Barnaby. They are an online learning platform with amazing study resources. And through my experiences as a college student, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some study techniques that I use, as well as give you guys some tips on how to study better in college. First piece of advice actually begins right here in the classroom, and that is to take good notes. During a lecture, you're actually getting all the information that you need to study. Put your phone away so that you don't get distracted. Listen to the lectures and stay active by asking and answering questions. Take good and organized notes that you can actually use to study. I know that there's this huge debate about handwriting or typing notes. Honestly, in my opinion, it's just a personal preference. My handwriting is terrible, so I type up all my notes. You want to make sure you're noting down key terms, key concepts, key ideas, and also make sure you write a couple of your own questions that you might have. Don't copy PowerPoints word for word. You want to keep your notes very short, abbreviated, and make them as easy as possible to understand. The basis of studying is using your notes, and the better notes you have, the easier it will be to study. You know how sometimes you spend hours and hours going through a PowerPoint, reading a textbook, and when you're done, you're like, did I actually learn anything? Reading and going over information helps, but how do you actually know if you acquired that knowledge? Something that was game-changing in the way that I studied was that I started studying more actively. Instead of just reading flat out, what I like to do is that while I am reading, I jot down questions that I could possibly use. I read and analyze everything really carefully. I also do some annotations on the side. Then when I'm done reading, I answer those questions that I made for myself without looking at the text, and that way I actually know if I know the information or not. By doing this method of reading, doing questions, and then answering them, it actually forces you to extract your knowledge to see if you know everything. Another thing I like to do is I create outlines. I memorize those outlines really well, and then I pretty much rewrite them from scratch. Obviously, when I'm done, I compare to the real outline to see if I missed anything. Memorizing information by just reading is pretty hard to do because you're not stimulating your brain. All you're doing is just reading, going through it. You need to create a process to see if your brain actually retained all that information, and that's why I recommend active studying. You finally know how to take good notes, you know how to study actively, but what do you do when you have more questions? You might be able to go to your professor's office hours. I also do know that some schools offer on-campus tutoring. The only problem is that professors are not always there to help you. Sometimes you cannot get tutoring, but luckily Barnaby is there to help you. Barnaby is an online learning platform that allows you to access textbook solutions, step-by-step guides, and even lets you ask questions that you may have while you're studying. With Barnaby, it doesn't really matter what you're majoring in because they cover all major areas of study, anywhere from business, math, to science. They offer over thousands of textbooks with their question solutions. What I really like about them is that they offer really in-depth, step-by-step guides that show you how to solve a certain problem. This is perfect because you gain nothing by just knowing the answer. What you actually need to understand while studying is the process behind getting the right answer, and that's exactly what Barnaby does. I'm gonna leave the link to Barnaby down below in my description. Make sure to check them out and use them as a study resource. Also, down below in the description, I have left a promo code that you can use to get access to 30 free questions. But anyways, if you're studying and you're struggling or you have any questions, don't second guess yourself because you might be wrong. Ask your friends, ask your classmates, go online, ask your professors, use your resources to get it right. This study technique might sound really crazy, but it is actually very effective. You're actually gonna pretend that you're on a podium just like this one, and you're gonna play professor. One of the best ways to see if you understand a concept is to teach it for yourself. You're just gonna pretend that you're the professor, you own the classroom, and you're just gonna explain as much as possible about a certain subject. You can do this with a group of people, and you might actually end up learning a lot of different things that you didn't know before, but you can also do it with somebody that knows nothing about the subject at all, or you can do it alone, but point is, you just want to explain and see how much you actually understand. Whether you do them electronically or on paper, flashcards are an amazing way to retain memory. They're really easy to create and they're also really effective. When you're doing nothing in between classes, you can just whip them out and grind out a study session. Flashcards are great for anything from memorizing words to understanding key topics. Anything you need to memorize, put it down on a flashcard, study it, memorize it, and you'll be set. Now my last piece of advice is to use visuals when you're taking notes and while you're studying. By creating a visual like a diagram, a chart, a picture, it just makes it easier for your brain to understand the information. Think about this, what's easier to study? The steps of mitosis if they're written word for word and no pictures at all? Or a visual of the mitosis process going on that allows you to see pictures of each step and actually lets you see what's going on? You can draw something, get a picture online, use your professor's PowerPoint. Alright guys, but that is pretty much it for me. Hopefully you learned something in this video that's actually gonna benefit you next time you study. I know studying can be a hassle, it's really time consuming, but that's just part of the process. Alright guys, that's it for me, but always, always, always remember to stay hydrated.